Hello, my name is Kim Knights. I work at Suffolk County Council and I am the Head of Business Management working in adult social care. We are recording a series of short films where I will be chatting with people who also work in adult social care in Suffolk as part of our iCare campaign. I will be asking them about their career, the support that they have had from the council and why they chose the career they did, and what they enjoy about their job and the work that they do. I really hope that through these films you will learn a little bit about the wide range of roles available. I also hope that you will find inspiration in these films to consider whether a career in care would be right for you. For more information about working in adult social care here in Suffolk, please visit our website www.careers.suffolk.gov.uk/services and click on adult social care. Welcome, Claire. Can you introduce yourself, please, and where you come from? What's your job?
My name's Claire. I work for Papworth Trust and I'm their Business Development Manager.
Welcome. So what does your job entail?
So I work across the whole of our trust, which is East Anglia, but predominantly I work with our contracts managers and our commissioners. I work with our families and our customers, and it's how we can improve our services at Papworth Trust for the benefit of the people that use them.
Yeah. And we were talking just a moment ago, weren't we, about Papworth Trust? Tell me a bit more about the actual trust and you know, what it is now.
So the trust started well over 100 years ago.
Gosh.
And started as a TB colony. And that was in Papworth, Everard, the village in Cambridgeshire, hence the name.
Yeah.
And we supported people to remain in their communities, so rebuild their lives after TB. So it'd be helping them to regain skills at home, to find employment, to find appropriate housing. And the trust developed from that point, and we still have our main pillars, which is to support disabled people into employment, to support disabled people to have the right home, to care for people in their own homes, and also to live the life that they want.
Yeah. So actually where it began, it's actually carried on its legacy, hasn't it?
It's kept that core structure and that core delivery.
So how long have you worked for them?
It'll be 14 years this August. So I moved to Ipswich to work for Papworth Trust as a senior support worker. I wanted to work with people with quite profound autism, and that is how Papworth Trust advertised it at the time. So very much shifts, sleep-ins, working with people with distressed behaviour, complex needs. And in the 14 years, I then became a supervisor, a registered manager.
Not an easy job.
No, not an easy job. I achieved outstanding with CQC.
Congratulations.
And then I had children, so I needed just a different perspective on life. Both my children have profound disabilities, and the trust were flexible, and this opportunity came up, so I still get to have that relationship with our customers, feel like I'm making a difference. So yeah, I've had a fantastic 14 years with Papworth.
And do you still feel that?
I 100% feel that.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because not many people after 14 years, you know, still feel the same way on the first day.
No, but every day is very, very different.
Yeah.
Our customers make your day, you know. They just, you feel a bit like a fan when, or rather a star, and when you walk in and you get greeted, and it's just fantastic. And in this role, I've got to see a lot of different sides of social care, which you don't experience when you're in the bubble of being a registered manager, because you are focusing on your group of customers, your staff team.
So when you were a young girl, did you think you'd end up here, or did you have any dreams or aspirations of what your job would be, a career?
I think I was very, very fortunate that I grew up with a very close friend who was deaf. He has a learning disability, he has autism, and I loved his company. But I didn't think that that's, you know, I wanted to be an aromatherapist, a podiatrist, all the different things that you go through when you're a young person. But I still very much enjoyed the company of people with learning disabilities. So I think I was just, you know, kept being pulled back to that.
And did you have to train or do any qualifications to get into the kind of work you got into?
I did. I've done all the mandatory training that's required, and since then I've chosen to do further qualifications. So I've got my level 3 and level 5 in health and social care. I did go to university and do psycholinguistics, so that was predominantly around how the brain is affected by either injury to the brain or illness to the brain, and that gives you a different insight. But I started from scratch, really. So.
And what would you say to somebody if they were thinking about doing a role like yours?
I think I always had that desire, which is I want to change the world when I was younger. And that's hard to do as one person, but you can easily change one person's world, maybe just for that day, but that's the impact that you can have in social care, is that you can make one person's day much better than the day they had before that and the day before they had that.
Who wouldn't want to do a job like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
And what kind of people would you expect to apply for jobs in that kind of world?
I think you have to have a level of resilience because you're working with people. People can be unpredictable, people can have good days and bad days. The job itself and even the training that you do can be quite hard hitting at times. But it's that resilience to get through to that really enjoyable side of people's lives. And I'd say empathy as well, not sympathy. There's a huge difference.
There is.
And I think having empathy is, you know, when you're working with people's families and their friends and professionals, everyone's coming from a different viewpoint, and you need to be able to accept everyone's viewpoint.
What's the best bit about your job?
Again, the customers. You know, you can have a day, I can have a day staring at spreadsheets nowadays and thinking about uplifts and budgets and whatnot, but I'm very grateful that I work in one of our day opportunity service. So all I've got to do is leave my room and be reminded of why I'm staring at those spreadsheets.
And what is a day opportunity service? Tell us a bit about that.
So it's for people to come in and have experiences that they might not have otherwise. So our day service in Ipswich provides building-based and community-based activities. So it might be baking and cooking, it might be maths and literacy, or it might be going to Clacton for the day or doing Nature Watch, working in the community. But it gives people the opportunity to be with their peers. And for people that still maybe live at home with their ageing parents, they just get that kind of boost from their peers and doing things that they might not otherwise have access to.
So is it busy all the time?
Very busy, very busy, but a nice, vibrant busy.
And do they have like waiting lists for people to come in and get places? Or
no, we just would expand our capacity really. So Papworth Trust have got 5 across the east of England, all different customer cohorts. But it's a lot of fun, and I do feel a lot of bitterness when I have to go back to the spreadsheet and I don't get to make the carrot cake or eat the carrot cake.
Claire, tell me a little bit about what supported living is, what it does, what it offers, what it does for people.
Supported living is very tailored, so it looks very different depending on what the person needs, what the person wants. So years ago, as we've touched upon, a lot of people lived in long stay hospital or in residential, so they were kind of grouped with peers, sometimes with similar needs, sometimes with opposite needs. Where supporting living is where people most of the time live in their own home. They've got that sense of empowerment, the ownership, and it's where we support them rather than do things for them. So it might be that one of their key activities is they want to make their own bed in the morning, or they want to get to the point where they're doing their own personal care, showering, brushing their teeth, choosing their own cologne in the morning. And it is the team will support people on those goals, but it's not necessarily always living on your own. Some people, that's their worst nightmare, living on their own, but they'll live with other people in their own home with people that are compatible with them. And that's a huge change from, you know, 15, 20, 30 years ago. It was never considered that compatibility of living with someone else. And when you're with someone under the same roof 24 hours a day, if you don't like that person, that affects their whole well-being, their motivation, their engagement, everything. So with supported living, it can look different for each person.
How many people roughly would live in a supported living accommodation?
Again, you can have supported living, which is just like one property, one person,
right,
and their
okay.
support, their own front door, their own set of keys, which
Yeah.
is a huge achievement for a
Yeah.
lot of people. And it might be that their support is there for 4 hours a day
Yeah.
on a Monday, 6 hours on a Thursday.
Yeah.
For other people, they might have 24/7 care with them.
Yeah.
For other people, it might be there's 4 people under one roof, and they have their support times at different parts of the day, depending what their goals or their activities are, and then they have some shared hours.
Yeah.
So it is very tailored.
What does shared hours look like? What could they use those for?
It might be that the 4 people that live under that one roof might go out to their day services during the day, and when they come back, they might all want to cook something completely different
Right.
and eat at different times. So that support worker will make sure that they're supporting each person to have the meal that they want at the time they want. Some people, we've found with our customers since COVID, they've really enjoyed that kind of sitting down and embracing it, and they will have chosen a meal that they like, and that support worker will help them just through that evening routine up until the point that they choose to go to bed.
And have you got any funny stories about your time of working in care?
I think there's lots of funny moments that you kind of reflect on, but when I first started with the Trust, we worked with people that had come out of long stay hospitals, and those people weren't used to being out in the community. So and a lot of those people had lived in a hospital setting for a good couple of decades, maybe longer. So coming out into the community and experiencing sensory stimulus that they hadn't experienced before, or expectations. They would just go to the canteen and have their dinner. Now they needed to go to the shop, they needed to learn how to be in a kitchen, sit down and have a meal, sometimes just be on their own. It's a lot for someone to process. And I was working with one gentleman who I still have a lot of time for and visit him, but he found the whole experience very overwhelming. And he never left his property at the time. It was an NHS property, and he was waiting to move fully into the community. And he was very, very anxious, and I worked intensively with him to the point where I could go out for a drive with him, I could go to a shop with him. But then what needed to happen is he needed the confidence in other people to be able to do the same thing. And I remember walking down Vauxhall Road with him and his 2 support workers, and he just kept looking back at me, checking I was there. And then I had to wait until he was completely distracted, run up Vauxhall Road, find the nearest alleyway to dive into, so that I was then out of the situation, he could carry on. But the amount of times that you'd see me running up Vauxhall Road to try and find the nearest place to hide so that he could develop that relationship he had with me, with other people.
That must be a lovely feeling, though, for you, that people got so attached to you. And,
It is
and
lovely.
I can see how you would get that real reward out of that. But hiding in alleyways maybe not quite so much fun.
No, and with my fitness, running up a hill isn't much fun either. But it was nice for him. He's now got a whole team that he has that trust with, and he's had holidays and goes out, does his own shopping. Even going to a barber's to have a haircut, they're small things that we take for granted. But 20 years in a hospital, someone came round the ward and did that for everyone.
And do you find recruitment an issue for you in supported living and the day opportunities?
We've gone through, like all social care, it has been a real challenge. And touch wood, we're in a good place right now. I think it is being honest about the job, that it can be up and down, but also that sense of achievement that you do get at the end of the day or the end of the week, or even encouraging people to reflect and go, look where you were 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 5 years ago. I think selling the job as what you can achieve for someone and the difference that you can make.
And you must have seen huge changes in those 14 years.
Huge changes.
Can you think of any of that you could share with us? What kind of change you've seen?
I mean, obviously all the language changes, service users, customers, residents, and I know they're all still floating out there.
They are.
And but I think, that empowerment of people, and everything's been absolutely soaked in that now, and making sure we're empowering the people that use our service. And I've worked with people who would only ever ask for food. They had to have permission because they were in these hospital situations. And then the celebration you have that they've eaten 6 yogurts at 3 o'clock in the morning and they've helped themselves to food, you know, and you go, yes,
it's a win.
They've got there. They know they don't need to ask, and you kind of go into overdrive on that before it settles back out. But it is incredibly rewarding.
I was going to ask you what the favourite thing about your job is, but what I think is the people.
It
comes across in everything that you're saying. It's the people.
And you learn so much every day. You learn something new. You make assumptions, and it's really important that you don't make assumptions about people or approaches or people or how things should be done, because there's always room for growth and improvement. And that is why I've been with Papworth Trust for 14 years, and that's why I've stayed in social care for 14 years, because I'm not bored.
No.
There's still more for me to learn. There's still more for me to do. I still feel that I make a difference.
That's key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making a difference. Nice working with Papworth Trust.
Yeah, very supportive.
If other people wanted to work for them, what would you tell them? How do they get in touch, or do you advertise regularly, do recruitment, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we obviously do regular recruitment. We've got our website, which obviously has the work for us, or volunteer. We're always looking. Some people aren't in a position to, perhaps they don't want to jump in 2 feet, but if they come spend, a few hours with us, we would prefer them to see what the job is about before committing. But on our website, we've always got our care and day opportunities.
That's great. So doing that volunteering is a great idea, isn't it, for somebody just to test the waters and see if it's right. I mean, you knew straight away it was right for you, but for others, great way to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I say, I was very blessed that I had always been surrounded by disability and learning disability. And that sounds a very odd way of putting it, blessed. But I was never anxious around, people with different needs or abilities than myself. Not everyone has had that opportunity, so volunteering or coming to have a look round or doing some shadowing, you'll get that feel very quickly.
And any challenges and frustrations you'd like to share?
I think there's always challenges and frustrations around general funding into social care, appreciation of social care. We had that real appreciation during COVID, and then sometimes it drops off. But I think the appreciation really comes from the people that you're working with. But anything that's government funded, there's going to be frustrations.
I think that's true, isn't it? So I have to say, your passion for the work you do really comes across and is really inspiring. And I'm sure if there's people out there wanting to work in that industry, you really sold it to them.
Yeah, it is life-changing. When you find that job that is meant for you, it doesn't feel like work. Everyone wants to avoid that situation where you've got the night before your stomach's churning and thinking, I don't want to go to work in the morning. I've had a job like that. I wouldn't stick around in a job like that, but 14 years and never to have that churning. You have your churning for something because you've got a meeting that you don't want to go to, or a difficult conveation, but I don't.
But you've got to turn up and be filmed.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got to, be semi-presentable.
And is the real difference between what happened in the past and now is it was more hospitalised, so they were more a patient, whereas now this is them in their own homes doing what they want to do? I'm just trying to get a real sense of what that real journey they've been on.
I think, both my grandparents worked in the long stay hospital that I'm now working with some of the people that lived there. So I had the benefit of speaking to my nana about her experience and how it was, and it was like at a set time they would go to the canteen and they would eat. They had 20 minutes to eat, they'd go back to their ward, their clothes would be laid out for them in the ward, or some people had bungalows and they'd be laid out for them. Now it is that choice element of, people going and choosing their own clothes, choosing actually, I'm not hungry right now, I don't want to eat lunch, I'll just have a mid-afternoon snack and I'll have dinner in the evening. Choices that you and I make, we've never questioned the ability to be able to make those choices, but the people that we support, that's relatively new in the last 20 years for them, and it's enabling them to make those decisions, and it is down to them. And for the people that we support, it's very overwhelming, and you do have to do that in a very sensitive way, a transition of, because if I just said, you know, there's £1,000. Go in any shop and buy anything you want. You'd immediately be like, what do I want? I want to spend that £1,000 really carefully. I'm never going to get this opportunity. So for our customers, we had to really introduce those choices and that transition slowly. And you do then get the kind of overgeneralise on rules. So I worked with one woman who barely ever left the house. You know, when she'd gone from the long stay hospital to an NHS campus, and she had no motivation to leave the house, but she loved a cup of tea. So when she fully transitioned into a home in the community, we used milk as a motivator to go, if you want a cup of tea, we've got to go to the shop and we've got to get milk. We did end up middle of the night, milk being tipped down the sink or on the floor. Go to Asda, want milk. So you get the overgeneralisation and then you scale it back to, you know,
that's
what you and I would do.
Isn't it? The homes that people are living in, like you say, sometimes it could be one in there, sometimes it could be, you know, 2 or 3 or whatever. How do you pick these places in the community? Because I guess they're all in the community, aren't they? Yes,
they are in the community and all over, you know, rural, central. Again, people's needs of, do they want to be in a quieter environment? Do they want to see, you know, sirens going past their door every day? Whatever they need. But sometimes they're just in a cul-de-sac or a road. They might be in your road. And I think it's that considering where's right for the person and what's right for the community, but also working with that community. Some communities might need a bit of reassurance, a bit of educating, that it's not going to turn their world upside down. It's just another neighbour. And yes, that other neighbour has support workers coming in early in the morning, late at night, but it's working with them to be respectful to wherever they live and for them to respect the people that we're supporting.
And do you do a bit of that in your role?
Yeah, I have done. So years ago, 2 of our customers transitioned from an NHS campus into a very sleepy village, and there was a lot of anxiety from the people that lived around them. And it was just, you know, making sure that the customers got to know their neighbours, that we had regular check-in points with the neighbours, that they knew how to raise concerns if they had any, but also advocating for people. We all have a right to live in a happy, undisturbed way. So it was us advocating for our customers that they had that right like anyone else does.
That's great. Thank you very much.